In this tutorial I'm going to show you some cool tools for photographers. Cool tools being stuff that's, once again, is capable of doing manually, but Photoshop has it built in, and will do you the favor and save you the time. I'm pretty sure that anybody who's ever photographed in public has experienced the problem of finding some pretzel in your picture that just notices that you're taking pictures but decides to go and pose in every single one of your shots and make life a wonderful misery for you. Well, as long as you're on a tripod and you haven't shifted your point of view, there's actually a very easy fix to this. Basically, you shoot a series of shots, and hopefully you don't get that pretzel overlapping in any of the shots. And what Photoshop will do is it'll take all these images and combine them and find the common pixels and then flatten that into what it should be. So if it decides 4 out of 5 pictures don't have this idiot here, then it will combine the other 4 images and omit the image with this guy in it. So what we'll do, I'm in Adobe Bridge at the moment, and just you can open these files individually from Photoshop. If I go into Photoshop and I open the files, I can open them like this and drag them all into one file. Let me just show you how I do that. Okay, here we see them all opening up as separate files. The quickest and easiest way to do this is to click on the window at the top and just drag it out from the taskbar, and just click and drag holding the shift key. And if you hold the shift key in, it will drop it in the exact same position. So it's now dropped that layer on top of this layer. Same with the next one, drag it out, click and drag and drop it on there. Click and drag, hold the shift key in and drop it on the background one. Yeah. So you click it off the one, drag it onto the other, and now you have all of these pictures on top of each other in one file. What you want to do is make sure they're all lined up. So we can start off by checking that. You select all the layers, so holding your shift key in, you select the first layer, hold your shift key in, down to the bottom one, you select that layer and you go up to edit and you say auto align layers. It'll give you a bunch of options as to how you would like to align. I find auto works best for just about everything, so I say OK, and it'll just make sure that everything, there's no slight shake, camera shake or movement, and it'll make sure all these layers are lined up with each other, so each arch is exactly on the same arch space, and it'll manipulate each picture to fit and make sure they're on the exact same areas. Okay, so what we're going to do from here is, keeping all these layers selected, we're going to now convert all these layers into one smart object. So you clicking on the menu option here of the layers palette, you say convert to smart object, and what it does is it doesn't flatten the file, but it places all those layers into one folder pretty much. And if I double click on here, it'll actually tell me it's going to open a new file to display that folder. So I say OK to create a new file here, and there it shows them all separated there. Once I'm finished editing, if I want to turn a layer off, I can do that, and I can close here. It'll ask me if I want to save it. If I save it, it'll save it and revert back to here. I don't want to save it, but it's just going to go back here anyway. So here's my smart folder. I can actually still get in there and edit those layers if I want to. So a smart object is a very clever way of handling flattened layers and working with layers that you don't destroy the pixel information. So I've created a smart object. From here I'm going to go to my layer menu, and I'm going to select smart objects. I'm going to go to stack mode. I'm going to change my stack mode to medium. Now watch how funky this is. Done. No pretzels in my picture. Okay, so by combining them, I can still go in here and I can open it up and I can see this idiot still there. He's in that picture, he's in that picture, he's in that picture, and he's in that picture. So there isn't a single picture that's clean. Every single picture in here has got somebody in it, but it's taken a bunch of these pictures and worked out what is common pixels and chucked out the stuff that isn't common. So basically it's a clever way and saving you time in not having to worry about masking things out and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, there isn't a reverse way of doing this. If I close this and say I actually would like this pretzel in my picture, and he's a solo artist and he wants his picture to look like a band, then we can go back to auto line layers as we would have. Instead of creating a smart layer out of these layers, we would then have to create a mask for each layer. And using our brush tool, we'll just brush out. Well, we've got a guy standing here in the arch, we've got a guy standing in this arch, and we've got a guy standing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to brush a gap for each one to come through. So I'm on this layer, this is the layer with this guy on it, but we need another gap here, so I'm going to paint in black. There's the guy beneath coming through there. There's going to be another guy coming in here, we can't see him yet because he's beneath the other layers. And there's another guy coming in here as well, so I'm going to paint that out as well. Okay, all these pictures are exactly the same because they are on a tripod, so there's no variance. So even though I'm cloning that picture out, you can't see it because the other pictures beneath it are all the same. So if I switch them all off, you'll see I've made holes in this layer here. Okay, so I can switch on this layer beneath it, and there appears that guy there. So I still need some holes in this layer. So I select layer 2, add a mask, and once again I paint in a gap for the next guy. And I'll paint in a gap here too for the other guy. So if I turn on the layer beneath that, this guy here is going to pop in, or is it this guy here? I think it's this guy here. There he pops in. Okay, so now we have to make a gap in his layer 2 to see the bottom layer. And for this last guy, we can turn on this bottom layer here, so as we paint it in, he will appear. So there we go, there he is there. Okay, so as simple as that. Now we've got a very unique picture with the same person in here 4 times, and that's quite a catchy style as well. It's quite nice for a photo shoot if someone wants to. Oops, I'm busy painting him out. Let's make a gap for him again. Okay, so there's 2 ways of either getting an idiot out of your pictures or getting a famous person several times in the same picture without having to stress too much about how to do it. So that's Photoshop's first nifty technique, and that's using smart objects. You can convert any layer to a smart object just by selecting it and saying convert to smart object. Alone you might look at it and think, well, what does that help? But if you go in there, that mask will still be there. But not only that, a smart object, like I said, doesn't damage the pixels. So if I go in here and I decide, okay, I'm going to transform this layer, I can drag this right down as small as that, hit enter, and it will transform it to that size. So if I zoom in here to 100%, it looks okay, you know, there's no bad pixels. But usually if you resize this, so transform, Control T or Command T, and I resize it back up again, it'll then begin to pixelate, because now in theory you're transforming it 1000% bigger. And with a smart object, it's still exactly the same quality as all the others. So smart objects, you can transform it without damaging the pixels. So if you want to transform something and you might make it bigger again later, the better way to do it is to make a smart object of it. I'll show you on this second guy here. If I take him and I transform him just normally, I haven't converted to a smart object, and I say Command T or Control T for transform, I hold my shift key in, I drag him right down as small as possible, hit enter. He's now transformed to that size. If I transform it again back up to this size, you'll see it was a lost image quality. So hit enter, and look at that, it's lost quality. Whereas the smart object doesn't resize it, it just, well, it resizes it, but it doesn't I don't know, hit enter, put it that way. Once you hit enter, it's final, whereas the smart object doesn't finalize its transformation. So it's a very handy tool, this convert to smart object, very handy for preserving your pixels. Okay, another wonderful tool. I'm going to close this, I'm not going to save it, and we'll close all these other ones that we copied into the one file. Going back to Bridge, landscape shooting. I'm sure we've all shot landscapes. I don't know if we've shot panoramics, but maybe a landscape. Shooting a panoramic, There's a couple of things to keep in mind. We'll probably cover that within the photography side of things rather than the Photoshop side of things, as to the techniques of photographing a panoramic. But here I am, my camera on a tripod. I've now photographed a series of pictures, each overlapping at least 30%. So a third of the picture is overlapping, so basically from here to the right is overlapped in this one here. So it just helps Photoshop stitch the image much better, and as a standard it tends to stitch better if you shoot from left to right rather than from right to left. So shooting from left to right, I've shot a series of pictures. If I scroll down here, you'll see I've panned across and I've shot a series of pictures going across to this building. It's too big to fit into one picture, so I've shot a panoramic of it to try and fit everything in. So now in Adobe Bridge, if you have Bridge, you select all the images you want to combine, and you go up to Tools, you say Photoshop, and you say Photomerge. If you don't have Bridge and you have shot a series of pictures like this, you can do it from Photoshop as well. You go into Photoshop and you say Automate and Photomerge. Okay, it's going to open up a little window. It's going to ask you which files you want to combine. Once again, auto combination is probably the best. I find it's very universal. I can browse and I can go and find that folder. Here it is. Here is it. Make sure I've got the right folder. Yes. And I can select those pictures that I want to merge together, and I say open. It'll add them into here, and I just say OK. And Photoshop will then do its thing. It'll look through them, align different layers and line on each image and line them up and produce a panoramic completed. It doesn't flatten the image, so if you see there's something that isn't quite matched up too well, you can actually manually adjust that, but I haven't ever had that problem. Photoshop does an excellent job if it's shot accurately. So now I'm busy blending the different layers together using masks, and there it is there. Okay, so as I panned through here, I actually didn't even notice I didn't include that part of the roof. So if I want to now combine it, here's all the different layers. I can flatten them or just merge visible to all the ones that are active. It'll flatten them together, keeping it on a transparency, so it's not going to put it onto a blank page. If I say flatten, it's going to put it onto a white background, which I don't want. And I can then transform it as well and drag it as I need it. With this panoramic type shots, it's very handy, a new tool or a variation to the transformation tool. If you go here and you say transform and you go warp, it'll then break it up into 6 little pieces. And you zoom out slightly so we've got some more space to work in. And this is basically a transform tool that you then manipulate and kind of bloat it a bit, stretch it out. You can pull down the ends just to try and get some kind of shape back into this picture. Even it out a bit. Hide that for a second. Okay, so I can bring that side down, zoom out a little bit more. Okay, so I'm lifting the center up a bit, pulling down the sides, getting more of a square shape that I can crop it with the maximum amount of space in there. I can drag this back up this side just to include as much of the paving as possible. Drop that down, lift this side up. Okay, so hit enter and it will then transform it. You can see before and after, so it's a lot more distortion in it. But now at least I can crop it square or squarer than what it was. So I can then crop my panoramic down, keeping image in the crop area completely. So I hit enter and I'm happy with that. And there's my panoramic shot. True panoramic will likely be cropped a bit tighter on the height, something more like that. So that's how you would combine a panoramic shot. So it's very quick and easy. You don't have to sit and manually with different layers. What you might have had to do is open up here and we'll open these individual files. I guess if you're doing it manually, what you'd do is you'd once again drag each layer on top of this one, and then you would make the opacity about 50%. And you'd line up these arches with each other, make sure that's lined up. And then you'd actually transform it, stretch it a bit here and there to get it to fit, distort it. So it'll be a lot more of a process to manually do this. And then once you've got it more or less lined up, you'll have to put it back to 100% again, and then add your, always crop it a little bit bigger here. With the crop tool, if you drag it to the sides, you can actually enlarge your copyboard size, your paper size, by once you drag it, it'll then give you a selection. You can actually drag it bigger than the actual size of the paper, and if you hit enter, then it'll then resize there. So now you can see your individual pieces of paper. So there's the second shot building onto the first shot, and then you can add your mask and brush out all the little hard edges everywhere to make it blend a bit better. Bring the black to the front, and there you go, create your blend. But it's a bit more of a tedious task than letting Photoshop do all that for you. So once again, just go to File, Automate, Photomerge, select your files, and let Photoshop do its thing. It's as easy as that. So those are my two handiest tips for photographers, and quick and easy ways of combining images or getting rid of idiots in your picture that don't want to get out while you're trying to photograph in a public place. Well, have fun, and we'll see you at the next tutorial.